Okay, so today we're talking about the circumference of a circle. In our book yesterday, it talked about circumference. And we talked about when they named the circle pieces, that the lady diameter was the diameter of the full length, their son radius was that half length, and then they named the circumference around the circle after circumference. So circumference is the measurement that goes around the circle, the outside of the circle. So just a few vocab words. A circle has many specific parts. First is the radius. And they call radius R, little r. So you'll notice right here after that, they call it little r. And that's the distance from the center to the outside edge. We also talked about the diameter. The diameter is the straight line that goes through the center of that circle. Okay, so they call diameter the small letter d. So if they give you little r, they're going to expect you to know that that's radius. They give you the letter little d, then that is expected to know that that's diameter. Okay. All right, and then the C, the big C, stands for circumference. And circumference is the distance around the circle. All right, so it says to label the parts of the circle below. So we said that diameter is the whole length of the circle, so this is diameter. Radius just starts from the middle and goes to one side. And then circumference is that whole outside. The whole distance around the outside of the circle. And once again, if I tell you the diameter is 10, what would the radius be? 5, because diameter is always twice the length of the radius. Diameter, 2 times the radius. Radius is half of the diameter. So if I tell you the radius is 4, what's the diameter? 8. If I tell you the diameter is 70, what would the radius be? 35. 35, because the half of 70 is 35. All right, there is one other component that we're going to need to be able to find circumference, and we're going to kind of explore where this number comes from. So it says, Mike and his friends are working in a tire factory. The factory manufactures several different size tires for different vehicles. Fill out the table below to show how the diameter and circumference of the tires are related. So the first vehicle we're looking at is a toddler bike. So diameter of the tire is going to be our X. Circumference of that tire is going to be our Y. So the diameter of the toddler bike tire is 14. The circumference of the toddler bike tire is 43.96. So I'm going to set that up as a ratio of Y over X, which they did for us. And I want you to take on your calculator right now. I want you to take 43.96 and divide it by 14. All right, Jonathan? All right, 3.14, perfect. All right, so let's look at a regular size bike. It tells us the diameter of the regular size tire is 18 and its circumference is 56.52. So I'm going to set the ratio of the Y over X. So the circumference over the diameter. So let's take 56.52 and divide it by 18. And what did you get, Ethan? 3.14. All right, let's look at the car tire. It tells us the car diameter is 24. The car circumference is 75.36. So I'm gonna take the circumference and I'm gonna divide it by the diameter, and I get 3.14 again. All right, you all try the dump truck. So I'll take the 113.04 and divide it by the 36, and what do we get? 3.14. So it says, what patterns do you notice regarding the circumference and diameter of a tire? And what we can say is that the circumference divided by the diameter is 3.14. Now, if you were in my lab, you cannot answer this question. Not answer this question if you're in the lab. What is 3.14? Where have you heard that number before? Henny? Yeah. So pi is 2 lines with like a little squiggle on the top, and that is 3.14. That's our estimate. So we're going to use pi to be 3.14. And that's just going to help me keep our answers all like the same. Everybody to finish writing that down on there, and then we'll go to the back. This is where we're going to use our calculator on the back, so make sure we got that. All right, so give me a second. Okay. All right, so on the back, circumference. The circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle, and it can be found using 2 different formulas. And the 2 different formulas, the reason there's 2 is because basically it's like, what part of the circle did they give you? Did they give you the radius or did they give you the diameter? And that's going to help you choose which one to use. So the first formula is circumference equals pi times d. So pi times the diameter. So that formula will be used if they give you the diameter. If they give you the radius, what do we know about radius and diameter? If they give you the radius, how do you find the diameter? Multiply by 2. So if they give you the radius, the circumference if they give you the radius is 2 times pi times radius. That's not hard. So 2 times pi times r. So once again, if they give you radius, you're going to use that second one, 2 times pi times r. If they gave you diameter, you're going to use the first one, pi times diameter. And we are going to use pi as 3.14. I'm going to cover it. How is it last page? Okay, so the next part says, use your understanding of circles to complete the table below. So let's look at number 1. It tells me 6 inches. Is that the radius or is that the diameter?
Radius.
That's the radius. So that means that I'm going to use the formula 2 times pi times r. So that's how I know which formula to use. They gave me the radius, so I'm going to use the formula with radius. We good on that? Okay. So then I'm going to plug in the values. So the values, what did we say we're going to use pi as? 3.14. So I'm going to write 2 times 3.14 times the radius. What's the radius? 6. All right, so we're going to get our calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 6. Hold on. Everybody's hands. Put your hands down. 2 times 3.14 times 6 on our calculator. And you should have gotten 37.68. Now, if it doesn't tell you how many decimal places you're going to round to, we're going to stick with 2. Okay? Because pi, we put 2 in there, we'll just stick with 2 in our answer. All right, now, it does say right here in terms of pi. So if it ever asks for the circumference in terms of pi, you just don't include 3.14 in your multiplication. So if you don't understand this, it's really not that big of a deal. But when it says in terms of pi, that means you just multiply the 2 numbers together, not pi. So what is 2 times 6? 12. So I'm just going to write it as 12 pi. And I'll just keep 3.14 as pi. That's all that means. All right, let's look at number 2. All right, in the picture for number 2, did they give you radius or diameter? Diameter. So when they give me diameter, I'm going to do pi times diameter. So what do we call pi? 3.14. So I'm going to do 3.14 times diameter, which is 14. So my calculator, 3.14 times 14. Turn down. Give everybody a chance. All right, so 3.14 times 14, everybody? 43.96. And if they ask for it in terms of pi, the number that's not pi is 14, so just 14 pi. I'm letting you all do number 3. So I want you to look at it, decide which formula to use based off what they gave you. All right, which formula do we use? So, Jonathan, what formula do we use? And I'm using that one because they gave me radius. Okay, so 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which is 3.5. So on your calculator, you should have typed in 2 times 3.14 times 3.5. And Ramon, what'd you get? 21.90. In terms of pi, I multiply the 2 numbers that are not pi. So 2 times 2.5 is 7, so 7. Like I said, if you don't understand in terms of pi, not a huge deal. You really need to make sure that you understand which formula to use and how to get the answer. Any questions about that one? All right, off to the side. So you can just put it to the side anywhere, I don't care. I want you to find the circumference, okay, of this one. That blue one up there in the corner, I want you to find the circumference of that circle. Up there in the corner, blue. Put it at the top of your paper, it's fine. The top blue one. All right, Wendy, what'd you get? 31.4. Perfect. All right, guys, was this diameter or radius? Diameter, it's the whole way across the circle, so I'm going to use I times D. So 3.14 times 10, so the circumference is 31.4. Are there any questions about how to find the circumference? Okay. All right, so we're going to move down to this last problem here. It says, use your knowledge of circumference in circles to answer question 4. So it's got 4 parts. So please don't work ahead. Stay with me so we can understand what's going on here. So it says, a Ferris wheel travels in a circular motion and measures 40 feet from the top part to the bottom part. So let's look at our picture here. So from the top part to the bottom part, it's 40 feet. So here's the top part, right? Right? Is that the top part? All the way down to the bottom part is 40 meters. Is that the diameter or the radius? That's the diameter all the way across. So part A. Part A says, what is the length of the radius? 20. Because we know that radius is half of the diameter, so half of 40 is 20. So 20 meters is the radius. And anytime they give you a picture and some labels, you should always draw it on there. Makes a lot more sense than you can actually see it. All right, so part B, what was the diameter? 40. So what is the length of the diameter? It's 40 meters, and they told us that up here. That's where that came from, because top to bottom. All right, and part C. A car travels, so when they're talking about a car, they're talking about like the thing you sit in. A car travels 1 time around the Ferris wheel. So we're going to say this car right here traveled 1 time around the Ferris wheel. What are they talking about? Circumference, because we said circumference is the measurement of around the circle. So on part C, the around the Ferris wheel tells us that we're talking about the circumference. Okay. So it says how many meters did the car travel? So up to you guys, it really doesn't matter which formula you use because you do know the radius and you do know the diameter. So totally whatever one is your fancy. So right now, I want you to find the circumference of that Ferris wheel. So you can use radius, you can use pi, it doesn't matter. Did you already find it? So right now, we know in part A and B what the radius and the diameter are. You just choose. All right, Seamus has been flapping his wings the whole period.
Is it 125.6?
It is. All right, so let's say that you use the diameter. So you did pi times d. So you did 3.14 times 40, which is 125.6. If you use radius, then yours would have been 2 times 3.14 times 20, which is still 125.6. So it does not matter if you use radius or diameter. Any questions about finding circumference? We're going to do the last part. The last part's a little bit different. Okay, so the last part says, on another Ferris wheel, a car will travel 100.48 meters to go once around the wheel. What is the height from the top car to the bottom car? So what is the height from the top car to the bottom car? What are they asking you to find? Diameter, radius, or circumference? Diameter. From the top car to the bottom car. They're asking you to find that, which is the diameter. They're wanting the diameter. But they tell me that on another Ferris wheel around the circle is this. Is that the radius, the diameter, or the circumference? Circumference, they're telling you that that's the whole distance around that Ferris wheel. So this is the circumference. So I know circumference. They're asking me to find diameter, so I'm going to use the formula circumference equals pi times d. I know that because they told me circumference. They told me to find the diameter. Okay, well, let's fill in what we know. What is the circumference? 100.48. What is pi? 3.14. And I don't know diameter, so I'm going to leave that as d. If you have a question, don't tell them the answer. If you have a question, you can ask the question. We will. Yep. So once again, I fill in the information that we know, and now I'm going to solve it. So to solve this, since this is 3.14 times d, we learned when solving equations, I do the opposite operation. So I'm going to divide by 3.14, and I get d equals 32, and that would be meters.
Oh, pencil.
In my cup.
These are broken.
Both of them?